welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today I have a little review for Goodnight Polish's upcoming collection called From the Underworld to Olympus. Goodnight Polish is a small indie based in New Jersey. You probably have seen me share a couple of review videos in the past months for them, and as you can see, this is a small 5-piece lineup of these mixed finish formulas and colors, all inspired by Greek mythology. As always, I will save some more info on the launch at the end after comparisons. For now, let me show you the swatches. The first shade we have is Veiled by Starlight, and this one is described as a jelly blue polish with blue holographic glitter. And I would say that's a very accurate description. As you can see, this does have a blue tinted jelly base and a ton of blue holographic glitter. The formula overall was pretty nice. I feel like it kind of applies as a chunky glitter kind of polish, so it wasn't super even on the first coat, but it does build up a lot on the second. You might just have to dab around and move some of the glitters because depending on your application it might sort of drag, but overall I was really impressed with the coverage on just 2 coats alone. You could do a third or I guess sponge on another coat for even more coverage. I love how this initially reminded me of a sapphire because it's so sparkly, but I think it also perfectly looks like a night sky with twinkling stars. Then we have Fiery Farewell, and this is a purple to orange shifty polish with gold reflective glitter. This had a really lovely formula. As you can see, a bit more full coverage on the first coat, not quite as sheer, though you can still see a hint of nail line. It's not really opaque enough to be a one coater or anything, but this did provide excellent coverage on just the 2 coats, where I personally left it here. I don't think you would need a third coat for more coverage, but I could see this maybe getting a little bit darker with a third coat. Like the first coat, you see more of that red leaning purple color, but I think the second coat makes it look a little bit more burgundy. Either way, it's just so moody and so gorgeous. The next shade we have is Rosy Fingers of Eos, and this is described as having a peachy base with a pink to gold shift. This one might look familiar because I wore it in one of my intro and outro videos, maybe for like what I wore last month. I just could not help myself. I absolutely love this one, so here is a closer look at it. This is another shimmer formula, but a little different than the last shade because I think this one is slightly more pearlescent. I feel like I did notice some more brush strokes, so I would be mindful of your application here just to make sure it's as smooth and straight as possible. But yeah, the color is super gorgeous. I love the shimmer in here, though admittedly I couldn't really see the pink shift, just the gold, and because it's a little sheer, I did build this up in 3 coats. We have another blue in the collection, and this one is called Lightning Up the Sky, and it's described as a bright blue polish with a subtle pink shimmer. Now, I don't know about you, but I could not see the pink in this, though this does have a shift to purple in more extreme lighting, but head on, you get more of this cyan, greenish, aqua blue color, so it is really shifty still, and I would say this had a somewhat similar pearlescent shimmer kind of formula. As you can see, there are some more brush strokes. You can kind of see some imperfections that you might get. You can see I got a little fuzzy near the bottom half of my nail, but overall really great coverage otherwise. I love this bright blue color. It's just so fitting for summer, and here you can see that shift to purple in extreme lighting. I feel like it looked very mermaidy. And rounding out the collection is Sunny Side Up, which is described as an egg yolk yellow polish with iridescent flakes and an orangey gold shimmer. I feel like I had also hinted in a previous video that another egg themed polish is going to be coming soon, so here it is. I thought it was so funny to see these indie brands have such similar ideas but with completely different like themes, you know? But yeah, as you can see, this is another egg yolk jelly kind of colored base, but it is packed with those shimmers and iridescent flakes, so I feel like it does build up decently well, where it doesn't give you that same translucent glassy effect, but maybe more like a crelly. I did end up building this up in 3 coats, and I feel like I had such a hard time seeing my visible nail line. It's not 100% opaque, but like 98% there. And here's my little thumb swatch collage of the collection. I really love that you can get the theme of the name of the collection from the Underworld to Olympus just through the color story alone, but I feel like you also get the vibe of going from day to night or night to day. Now moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Veiled by Starlight, and this immediately reminded me of a couple of sparkly deep blues. So I pulled out Olive's Coastal and ILNP's Songbird. Coastal has more of this iridescent shimmer, while Songbird has this holographic flaky, so they are still different, not being glitter polishes, but at least the base blue colors are kind of the same. I think Coastal is a little closer, but maybe not as dark. I also thought it would be worth showing Veiled by Starlight next to Mooncat's House of Hades, since that is a super glowy cobalt blue, but it has more of this indigo purple leaning base color. And the Goodnight also did make me think of like a reflective glitter kind of polish, so I pulled out Opal Theory's 2F by Sea, 3F by Ice, but that's a different shade of blue. And lastly, I have Starrily's Oceanic Moonlight and Fauve's Melancholy, which are just some more really bold cobalt blues, but in different formulas. So the Starrily is a magnetic and the Fauve is just a shimmer. Doing a third coat of the Fauve might make it a little closer, but they're basically the same color in different fonts. Next for Fiery Farewell, the closest that I have from Goodnight Polish is the Beeps, the Sweeps, and the Creeps, which was from their last Spaceballs collection a few months ago. That one is a magnetic though, and on the nail it applies a lot darker, having this more like blackened purple base with a fuchsia purple toned kind of shimmer, so definitely very different. When it comes to the more red-toned purple bases or burgundy bases with a more red shimmer, I pulled out Mooncat's Sin Eater and Potion Polish's Spiced. Between these two, I would say that the Potion Polish is definitely closer because Sin Eater is a little bit more of that purple-leaning base and the shimmer is more of a larger particle size. The shimmer in Spiced is more finely milled, but it almost doesn't look as glowy and it maybe has a darker base. Next for Rosy Fingers of Eos, this one immediately reminded me of Cirque's Day Tripper, which has a similar golden glowy shimmer, but the base is a little bit more of a red-toned leaning coral. I think initially this was more neon or just more vibrant, so I think my bottle has faded a bit, but it's still not as soft looking as the Goodnight polish, and as you can see, the shimmer is a lot more subtle in Cirque. So for other shimmery oranges, I pulled out Crack's Fruity Drink and Uno Mas Relit, which that one is a magnetic, but leaving it unmagnetized almost gives a similar like pearlescent shimmer vibe, but both of these are noticeably more orange. So for softer, peachy kind of orange bases with golden shimmers, I then pulled out KBShimmer's Flip Out and Cirque's Fandango, which I feel like do look really similar in the bottle, but on the nail you can tell a difference. The KBShimmer and Cirque are both a lot more sheer and slightly more pink leaning in the bases, while the Goodnight is more of this warm, peachy color, and I think the shimmer again looks pretty similar in them all, but it does look the most glowy and Flip Out. And lastly, I decided to pull out Prism Parade's Paloma Sunset, which has more of a true like reddish coral color with a golden shimmer that does shift to a green color in extreme lighting, but head on, these were surprisingly close. Like I would say they have a similar value in terms of their bases, but again, they are just different colors. So not quite dupes, but a very similar vibe. Moving on to Lightening Up the Sky, I first pulled out Cracked Polish's Night Swim, which should have just came out, and Prism Parade's Poolside from last year's summer collection. Between these two, I would say that Night Swim is more similar, being this sort of pearlescent shimmer. It's a lot more opaque though, so it almost has like a metallic kind of look, and obviously the base color is a lot darker, but the shimmer color does look the same. Prism Parade is a lot more sheer. For some other shimmery kind of aqua blues, I first pulled out KBShimmer's Splash Talking, which you can see is a bit of a darker blue, and then OPI's Surf Naked, which is kind of a pearlescent shimmery aqua, but much lighter or more white based. And both of these lack that sort of greenish, like cyan minty color that you see head on, but the KBShimmer does shift to a purple in extreme lighting, so it is kind of similar in that way, being almost mermaidy. And for Sunny Side Up, we of course are looking at it next to Apocalypse's Omelette du Fromage from their Not a Kids Show collection that recently came out. I do want you to notice though, in the bottle, the Apocalypse looks like a brighter yellow, while Goodnight has a more warmer, almost orangey leaning color. But interestingly, on the nail, they almost apply in the opposite way. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm assuming it's because Sunny Side Up has this orangey golden shimmer in there, so maybe it just looks a little brighter, and the Apocalypse is a little bit more of a true glassy jelly, so the translucency maybe allows more of the warmth of my nail plate to come through. I'm not super sure, so it was kind of trippy to see, but in other lighting they look like they do in the bottle. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Goodnight polishes upcoming from the Underworld to Olympus collection. These are going to be launching this Friday, June 26th at 9 a.m. Eastern time, so I will have their website linked down below. As always, I would also love to hear your thoughts on these because I just thought they were really beautiful. I love the theme, like the lineup is just so cool. I feel like the past couple of collections from Goodnight have just been a little bit more like unique, you know, compared to what other brands are releasing at this time of year. So I loved the story and theming behind this one. I wish I had a little more information on how these polishes like play together, I guess, because I'm just admittedly a little rusty on my Greek mythology. I feel like if I knew more of like the lore, I would appreciate them even more. But even aside from that, just like color palette wise, I know we have two sort of like darker shades, but I love that these three are a little bit more bright and summery, you know, so they are kind of seasonal, but there's also like these two darker options if you're just tired of the bright summery shades. And yeah, formula wise, they are just really amazing too, just pretty much what I've come to expect from Goodnight. Again, I've only tried like a couple of their polishes, like, you know, here and there, especially from like recent collections, but they've just been really nice, like even coverage, application, just so smooth. So overall, a really nice lineup. So again, I would love to hear your thoughts on these down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!